Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Progressive Overload Podcast. Have you ever thought about strengthening multiple areas of your life at the same time? Then you've come to the right place. Our goal is to help you identify ways that you might need a progressive overload to break through those plateaus and keep you growing.
Hey, what's up, Progressive Overload family? Welcome back to the table. It is good to see you again for another week. I am joined here today by our good friends Joe.
What's up?
And Adam.
Hey.
And today we actually have an extra guest joining us at the table. Woo! Our first ever guest episode. We're so excited to have Mr. Tyson Burwell.
Hey,
what's up, dude?
Thank you for having me.
Dude, listen to that voice,
I'm
right?
telling you what.
It is a beautiful voice.
I'm telling you.
The voice is as beautiful as he is.
The ratings are going through the roof.
I know.
For those of you who can see through your speakers, Tyson is just a radiating stature of
I posted a picture of him without a shirt on our social media, so that we're gonna get our female audience
interactions went up.
Is gonna be spiking.
I want y'all to know
that's why the interactions went up. Yeah,
it's very difficult being this good looking. It's a lot of pressure, guys. Y'all aren't helping out either.
I know.
Sweet. Well, Tyson, we appreciate you joining us here at the table. Like I said before we hit record, this is probably one of the episodes I've been most excited about, just to get a glimpse into your world, because I find it so interesting, but I know nothing of it. And so looking forward to it. So Tyson, why don't you just give us a little bit of introduction, who you are, what you do?
Man, okay. So my name's Tyson Burwell, a.k.a. the Kaioken Kid.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to ask, where does that come from? And it actually comes from Dragon Ball Z. There's a technique. It's called the Kaioken, and it's where Goku powers up and his power level jumps up tenfold.
Man.
And then I just put kid at the end of it just because it sounded better.
Oh, yeah. That's so cool.
There you go.
So
I love it.
But I'm a mixed martial arts fighter, Muay Thai fighter, jiu-jitsu practitioner. Spend most of my time nowadays being a coach as far as that world goes. Mm-hmm. And then I also work at the hospital as a certified occupational therapy assistant.
And Tai Chi master.
And Tai Chi master.
We've talked about Tai Chi a couple times in this podcast.
Yes,
and,
we have.
Tyson is the man that takes us through those forms.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
So what kind of fighting do you currently do the most?
Right now, I would say I primarily focus on my Muay Thai, which is a form of kickboxing.
Okay.
It comes out of Thailand, actually.
Yeah.
And
sick.
So it's kickboxing mixed with elbows and knees.
Okay.
And then there's also a little bit of clinching involved, and that's where you grab the back of the head and pull people into your knees, pull people into your elbows.
Okay.
But I'm really hoping my next fight's mixed martial arts, and I can really start focusing more on my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and that kind of thing again.
Yeah. And you're about to go to Thailand, aren't you?
That's the idea. Yeah. We're planning on going up in June. It keeps kind of getting moved back because the world keeps falling apart.
Yeah.
Ukraine thing, and then
tornadoes,
my
fires.
house getting hit by a tornado.
Right.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Man, that's wild. So, you ramble off a lot of different forms of those martial arts there. So
Yes,
how
sir.
long have you been invested in number one, martial arts in general,
Okay.
and number two, fighting specifically?
Well, so I guess my first introduction to martial arts ever was when I was 5 with American Karate underneath Bob Nuttall. But I don't even really count it. I was so little. And
okay.
I transitioned to baseball pretty shortly after that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really don't even count that as part of my background. But after that, it actually just kind of came from when I was 16 or 17, I actually started doing kickboxing. And then that transpired into jiu-jitsu and stuff. But I guess my first official fight was in 2019, but I did have a couple jiu-jitsu tournaments before that, and one smoker fight as well.
Yeah.
Okay, what is a smoker fight for those that do not know what that is?
Right, so a smoker fight is a unsanctioned bout. So it's basically where two gyms kind of come together, or multiple gyms, doesn't have to be two, but and they all bring their fighters, and it's a place where beginner fighters can actually start to fight without the pressure of judgings and no records or anything like that. And it's also using the big 16-ounce gloves and the shin pads as well. So it's a little bit safer.
Yeah.
But it's a way for the fighters to kind of get some experience with a crowd involved.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Awesome. I'm so glad that the answer wasn't, I've been fighting as long as, back in high school at one time in the lunchroom.
Yeah.
I have a feeling there might be one or two of those stories.
Yeah.
Dude, and I'd be interested to hear those stories later at some point. But anyway, so yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome that you've had such a history with it, and I think we've talked a little bit about this somewhat before, just seeing the different cultures and all those mixed martial arts and being able to bring all those things together for your fighting.
Sure. Well, on top of that, MMA, it actually started out with trying to find out what's the strongest form.
Sure.
Really?
Yeah. If you look at the history of it, it was a tournament between all these martial arts. You had boxers, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, judo guys. Okay. And they were just trying to figure out, there's been years and years of arguments of my martial art's the best, and they wanted to find out, and come to find out, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu won out for the most part with Royce Gracie. But now you have to know it all, otherwise you don't stand a chance.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of turned into its own thing altogether.
Yeah. So these people that are I don't follow UFC very much, but the top performers, would you say they are all pretty much masters of each individual art?
More for the most part, there are still niches though. For instance, I would say a large part of them come from wrestling. High school wrestling, college wrestling. But, there's still guys that focus primarily on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or primarily karate.
Yeah. Almost like a specialist in a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So as far as the fighting aspect goes, what was it about fighting that really brought you in, made it an interest?
I would have to say all the cartoons and stuff I watched.
That's
awesome.
Sure,
Cartoons make you violent, right?
Yeah, like
apparently
everything I watched, Dragon Ball Z, Power Rangers, even video games. We were talking about video games earlier before we started recording, but Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter,
classics.
It was part of my childhood, and there was that, and then I've never been afraid of fighting. We talk about high school stuff, and I don't know. I think I'm a nice guy and all, but I've never been one to back down from challenges and fights and stuff. And
so I want to get in a little bit about who you are, and do you think the aspiration to become a fighter, do you think that came from any sort of event that happened to your life, or maybe an insecurity, or was there something that happened was it like a defense mechanism almost?
In some ways, yeah. It's fighting is, if you ask every athlete, every fighter, why they do it, you're going to get answers from all points of background. But I couldn't point to a specific time in my life where it's like I got bullied or anything like that.
Yeah.
But really, I guess just the love of the martial arts in general.
Yeah,
sure.
Was
there ever a moment where it was just that everything clicks moment of, I can do this?
No, I sucked. Like when I first started, man, it was brutal.
Yeah.
I want to dig into that just for a second, because I feel like if I ever tried to do what you do, that would be my response.
That would be my response, right? Yeah.
I'm terrible at this. Why in the world would I even want to try again? So let's dig into that just for a moment.
Sure. Well, like I said, I always liked fighting. Not like I said, not trying to be mean or anything, but I remember thinking that I was good at one point. There was this ego that I had where it's like, I can handle myself. I'm a tough guy, right? And then you go into your first jiu-jitsu class, and there's a 130-pound girl that takes your back and chokes you to sleep. And you think one or two things either happens for people. Either they their ego won't allow them to keep that, and they're like, I won't do this ever again. Or they become obsessed with it. Oh, did I jack it up?
No, yeah, we're good. You're good.
Right. Proceed.
I said, or they either become obsessed with it, and I was definitely that kid. It's like, I can't ever let that happen to me again. And, So
see that.
There was definitely that. And then there was also one, I guess going back to the event thing, I went over to my buddy's house in Oklahoma, and I have this, he's been my best friend for so long, the two brothers, Calvin and Caleb. And I was over at their house, and we had this little backyard scrapyard kind of thing going on. And Calvin beat me up pretty good.
Oh, no.
And I was like, once again, I can't let that happen to me. I got to start training. And I guess that would be the answer to that, is what kind of skyrocketed.
Yeah, that's what I was looking
for. So nowadays, how often do you fight? And I know, obviously we've had conversations outside of this setting that it's a little difficult right now, you know, but in a typical setting, maybe if we go back a couple years pre-COVID where things were a little more open, how often would one like yourself find themselves fighting?
Ideally 3 or 4 times a year.
Okay.
And, you know, that's including, you know, like a good 6 to 8 weeks preparing before every fight. If you're taking it seriously, it takes a fight camp. It's a road to travel to sign up for a fight 8 weeks from now and then have to delve into that.
Yeah.
And
I can't imagine just the sheer amount of prep work, you know, that goes into each one of those.
Sure.
That's what I'll explain kind of what the process of a fight camp looks like.
So starting out, you get your opponent, you kind of figure out, or you get a date. You're like, I'm going to fight.
Yeah.
And once that's kind of laid out and you figure out what weight class that you're going to fight in and all that, it's time to start the weight cut process immediately.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I walk around naturally about 175 pounds, and I fight at 145.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that's quite a cut. And
Quite.
Yeah, and that sounds like I'm fighting at 145. I only weighed 145 pounds the day before for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I start rehydrating and all that stuff. But anyway, so the cut is battle number one, is figuring out, making sure I can make the weight. And then preparation, man, I hit 2-a-days, 4 to 5 times a week, you know. And I like to hit a good strength and conditioning in the morning, make sure I get my road work in, my cardio. As you guys know, I like to swim. And then it's also the training in the afternoon. You get your sparring rounds in, you get your techniques down, and then game planning for the opponent.
Yeah. So just looking at, or you like watch videos of your opponents, look for his weaknesses, look for his strength. I see.
Yeah, exactly.
Do they always have video available?
Not always, especially at my level. You know, I'm not at some pro level where I'm fighting these guys who've had 10, 15 fights. So sometimes you're just looking through their Facebook and like, what are they training? What's their training look like? You know, where do they have holes?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's so interesting. You know, I come from a little different background, esports, you know, but a
little bit less physical,
little less physical, you know, all the fingertips,
just as violent,
naturally. But yeah, the detail work of having to go through the process really of preparation is something that I'm familiar with, and in this case, like for you, I really admire, honestly. Like there is so much that goes into every little bit of you preparing. You know, I always describe it as it's the minute, the small details that you put in advance that really can massively affect the end result.
Sure,
absolutely.
Yeah. So we went through the 60-day challenge, right? As we started all this, and you and I had a conversation about that kind of resembling a fight camp because we were just cutting weight.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I can't imagine doing that 4 times a year.
Yeah,
that sounds terrible.
That does sound terrible, and that's one point that I think is interesting for us. So, for sake of what we've done and what we've covered with our podcast and what we've discussed, we've talked about a variety of different topics and a lot of kind of personal, like what we're going through with workouts and nutrition and what those things look like. What does it look like? And I know you kind of keyed in a little bit on the workout side, but what does the workout nutrition plan look like in advance to a fight?
For myself, I drop the carbs. I try to keep my protein as high as I can. I still strive for like 1 gram of protein per pound of body mass. Yeah. And then I up the cardio quite a bit. Once I get into fight camp, my weight, I'm pretty good at dropping weight just with the diet and the amount of cardio work output that I'm putting in.
Yeah.
Sure.
So and then the water cut on top of that.
The water cut's the hard part. Yeah. And as you two know now, the mental battle of that is the hard part.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to Joe a little bit. The water cut for me wasn't all that bad on the front end, but the recovery was brutal.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that, and I wasn't ready for it.
Try fighting after that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, and I can't imagine stepping into a ring after feeling the way that I felt, going, okay, now we're going to
It's the worst
we're going to go.
Sport. Yeah. It's the worst part of the sport. I honestly, I know there's some larger organizations that are trying to ban weight cut.
Yeah.
Because what it is, it's sanctioned cheating is what it is.
Right.
Basically, I don't walk around at 145 pounds, you know, so I'm lying. I'm saying, yeah, I'll fight you at 145. And then we meet the day before, we both make weight, and now we both walk in the cage weighing 160.
Yeah.
It's like, why did we go through all the process?
For no reason.
Yeah, why can't we just be at 160 and be done with it?
It's the worst part of the sport.
Huh. I wonder where that started. Do you know?
I would think it starts in the weight classes in general, but in wrestling culture.
You know?
And the whole idea is to try to
that.
The whole idea is try to get an advantage, a size advantage on your opponent. Because if say me and Joe are fighting, and we agree to make it this, we agree to fight at whatever 145 pounds, and I'm better at making weight than he is. Right. Maybe I might have better coaching and I have better nutrition and all that stuff, or he has to kill himself to get down to that, and I'm slightly better just over experience and whatnot. I'm going to come in a fresher fighter. So so even if he's a better fighter than I am, but I'm better at weight cutting, I'm going to have an advantage just, performance wise.
Right. Absolutely. I thought that was one of the things that was so interesting to me as you and I began to talk and we got to know each other a little bit. I went back and watched the first UFC event because it's on YouTube, like everything else. And as I watched that, I was intrigued by the fact that there was no weight classes. There was no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's no size. You just went in with your discipline, and whatever the outcome was the outcome. Yeah. And I thought that was interesting because I wish they'd do it like that now. To a certain point, I guess.
Sure. Hoist Gracie was the winner of that, and I think he was like, I've trained with him actually, but he's 6 foot, I think, roughly, and probably about 175 pounds. Yeah. And he beat Ken Shamrock, who was a monster. Yeah. You look at those guys standing next to each other, like, this kid's about to get killed. Yeah. This little Brazilian guy's about to just get murdered, and took his back, choked him out.
Dang. You've trained with some pretty well-known people, haven't you?
It's so funny, man. The fight world is so much smaller than I think people realize. Oh, really? Once you're into the world and you're going around and training, you figure out they all got to train somewhere. Yeah. And you can find them and train with them.
Yes, that's true.
Well, I guess there's only a handful of people that do that at a very high level. Sure. Unlike other sports where there's, in the world of professional athletics. Right. There's less people that do MMA stuff than there are like football or basketball.
And much of them are kind of like me. They teach classes. Right. That's another little supplement to their income. So. Yeah,
and I would say that within the culture of that community, I would assume at least that classes and doing those exercise things are big because the consistency, right? Like you fight 4 times a year, right? But you also have to support yourself in preparation for those things.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I wanted to make the parallel of the weight loss challenge that we did is obviously non-comparable to a fight camp that he's going through, but during that fight camp, you have a heightened level of discipline. Yeah, and what we've been talking about is how to stay the course during the off seasons, right? When you're not in fight camp. Not in fight camp, when you're not in a weight loss challenge. How do you approach that?
Yeah. So you're saying out of fight camp, how do I kind of stay in shape?
Yeah, how do you stay in shape? How do you maintain that level of motivation and discipline?
Well, partly it just comes back to knowing I'm going to fight again. Oh yeah. And if I sign up for a 145 pound weight class and I'm walking around 200 pounds, I'm punishing myself to try to get down, in that 8-week period.
Yeah, that's true.
So, for me, I guess it's a little different. I'm telling you, you sign up to fight somebody 6 weeks from now, you'll do everything you can to be as best shape as you possibly can because that guy, it takes over your life because you're thinking about what's he doing? Is he sleeping right now or is he training? What's he doing?
You constantly want to be one-upping.
Constantly. And it's brutal. And I think the physical part of it, the physical preparation is important, and that mental tax it takes on people, including me. So good. It's I would say the emotional part of it's harder than the physical.
Yeah. That's why I think like Spartan races and 5Ks are really popular because people are constantly signing up for those so that they have that as motivation.
Yeah, the next thing.
Dude,
if I have this next thing to look forward to, I'm going to continue my progress.
Flashback to a year ago, and we've talked about the 5K that you've done where you work. And like, I think back to the last one that we did here, and not that there was 400 people there, right? Yeah. But I know in my age class, I narrow it down to that because there were some people far older than me that whooped me in that race. Absolutely toasted me. But I remember looking at the board and there was one person who was my age that beat me, and it clicked with who they were, and I saw them cross the finish line, did everything I could to catch them and couldn't. And I literally, that's why I was mad at you that there wasn't one this year, is because I literally thought to myself, I spent the last year thinking it's not happening again.
I can see that in you, Dustin. I can just see that. I didn't know that you had it in you till we actually started doing some of this. And
he's competitive.
He is.
Yeah,
You've got that drive, man.
I'm so overly competitive. It's unreal, but
that's exciting.
It's okay.
So I would challenge you then to compete with yourself more.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes, you know, talking about keeping motivated, sometimes it's not about your opponent. It's about you yourself.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. You know, it's like, you know, people talk about when they're training or they're doing things, it's almost like they go to another place, right? Like they mentally just lock in at another place. And, you know, you guys have seen me, my Monday morning treadmill sessions, right? And people have heard and been like, I don't know how you run 7 miles.
Brutal.
First thing in the morning. And for me, like it goes with any time that I'm running. The biggest thing that helped me was to picture a better version of myself in front of me.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm chasing. And if I slow down, I'm letting them get away.
I thought you chased a donut.
That's absolutely
just
not.
To have a donut stringing in front of you.
It's a slice of pizza. What are you talking about?
Pizza, yay! We made a pizza reference.
Nah, But
That's
seriously
awesome,
though, I picture a version of myself that can and is doing better than I currently am.
Yeah.
And any time that I slack off or let things go, they're making progress and getting away from me, and I can't let that happen.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's a cool place to be.
For sure. That's similar to what we do when we're shadow boxing. I teach my students, fight an evil version of yourself.
That's it.
You know, I'm fighting evil Tyson over there, and he's whipping me too. You know, I got to move my head.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm mentally, I have the picture. Right, I know where you're at.
We're going to have Dustin signed up for a fight before this is over.
I want all of y'all to come to my gym
Sign me up.
at least once.
We'll have to make a special Progressive Overload podcast trip, and we'll film it and everything
go to the
and
gym.
make a deal out of it.
Hey,
oh, my gosh.
I love it. What's Joe's weight class?
We're all going to be in the same weight class. We're all within like 10 pounds of each other.
We're so close. Funny. I'm just better at cutting. So
I mentioned Spartan races the other day or a while ago. I listened to a podcast where they interviewed the CEO of Spartan races, and they were basically asking like, why do you think that this race is such a success? And his answer was because we have it so easy physically. They're searching for ways to punish themselves. They're searching ways to go through some kind of hardship because we have it so easy. We are bred to go through trials and go through physical torture from what our ancestors did to survive. We don't have to do any of that.
Living the easiest time to be
and so
alive
that's
right
I think there's a big parallel there to probably why you choose to beat yourself up every single day, huh?
Yeah, that's probably on a primitive level.
Yes, good word.
Probably.
Yes, exactly.
It's in our DNA.
Yeah.
That makes, and you know, it's crazy. That makes so much sense. Like people ask me about my workouts and everything, which to be clear, it's nothing impressive, right? I can't imagine doing what Tyson does for sure. But people ask me about my workouts and just like what, you know, pushes me to go through these. Like they ask me why I run these races and things. And for me, it's because I feel pushed to my limits. I feel like I'm having to force myself to go beyond the limits that I have set for myself.
Yeah.
And it's like when I hit that and I'm able to push past, I'm like, it's almost euphoric.
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
To be able to feel the progress being made, there's just no feeling like it. And I almost chase that.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep chasing that, man.
Yeah, it's a good place to be. So
the title of this episode that we called it is Embrace the Suck with the Kyokan Kid, Tyson Burwell. And I kind of threw some different options of kind of what we wanted to talk about with you. And when I said that, you're like, oh, that's it.
That's got to be it.
That's got to be it. So why do you think that struck such a chord with you?
Man, because everything leading up to a fight is embracing the suck.
Yeah.
It really is. Because if you don't become friends with that feeling, you know, I talk about the emotional part of it too. If you don't become friends with that fear in your belly, it'll consume you. Yeah. So it's that grind. It's that every day you got to do better and better and try to beat the old you. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because like I said, even the recovery part, you know, you're sitting in an ice bath or you're sitting in a sauna. Even the recovery part of fighting sucks. So you have to embrace it. Otherwise, you can't do it. Yeah.
Well, or else you wouldn't go back to it every single day.
Sure. Yeah.
So for people that are listening that do not fight, or like us, you know, at the table that have not done what you do, what would be something that they could look at and go, yeah, I need to embrace that. You know, because I'm not going to get into the world of competitive fighting or even go to the gym and train and be a punching bag for somebody else.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody that's just listening that goes, there's something in your life that you should try to embrace? What are some of the things that you might say to them?
I would first ask them, what do they enjoy? Like, what is it that you compete in?
Good answer.
What is it that you,
yeah.
Because there's going to, if you want to get good at it, you're going to have to go through some losses. You're going to have to go through some sucky times. And, you know, I remember when I first started weightlifting, you know, back in high school, and it was weak, you know, and you're seeing, the great thing about it is even though it sucks at the beginning and you're weak and everything else, every 2 weeks you're seeing your body do something new that it couldn't have done a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
So yeah, I would answer that with that same question.
Not only does he have a smooth, buttery voice, he's also wise.
Oh, come on now.
The wise.
Have y'all ever
Tai
seen
Chi
that?
master.
I just pulled it up because I've read it before and I love it, and I think it correlates so well with this. I'll just read it real fast. Marriage is hard. Divorce is hard. Choose your hard.
Yeah.
Obesity sucks. Being fit is hard. Choose your hard.
Yeah.
Being in debt sucks. Being financially disciplined sucks. Choose your suck. So that's kind of
It's this
perfect.
idea of you know, no matter what, not everything's going to be nice and easy, you know. When I think about fighting and what you do in response to Adam's question as well, it makes me think about the little things, right? Like the nutrition aspect of it. That is something that isn't just applicable to what you do.
Right.
That it's maybe a little more specialized because you have a different end goal.
Sure.
But it is something that we all have as a part of our lives, whether we pay attention to it or not. And the same way with our workouts and getting in those cardio times for you know, as you're trying to cut, in the gym, lifting for us that enjoy that as well. Like, those are things that can be embraced and that can make progress for you, help you to grow. If you look at it in context of your life, there is unavoidable forward progress that can be made if you embrace those things.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to take it up and run with it.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about what it feels like when everything in the ring? Are you in a ring or a cage or
Both. It depends on what
octagon?
event.
I don't know what.
Yeah. My first fight was in a square cage, and then all my kickboxing fights have been in rings.
In a ring. Okay, so tell me what it feels like when everything in the ring goes wrong.
Yeah.
Like when you are really having to embrace that moment. Well, tell me what that's like.
Man, that goes to embracing the suck right there for sure. Really, you have to in the gym whenever you're training for something like this, and anything, especially fighting, you learn to rely on yourself, because it's not like a team sport where you know, someone can come bail you out.
I can't tag.
No.
You can't tag anybody in. It's just you in there, right?
Yeah.
Tagging Dustin in. He's more competitive than I am.
So in training, if you're training properly with good teammates, they're putting you in those positions every week, every training session. You want to be in those hard positions.
That's
where
the goal, right?
Yeah. You know, you're getting ready for a fight. You need to be. Some of my rounds start out after I'm beat up and tired and already sweaty and give out. It's like, okay, situational drills. You know, so I get it on my back and Calvin mounts me and starts punching me in the face. Like, get out of here.
Jeez.
Get out of here. Or, you know, he'll take your back and sink in a choke. And it's like, okay, fight your way out of this. So it's part of it.
It's good to have I guess you can count them as accountability partners, but some that will be tough on you, but obviously not kill you. But they want to see you succeed badly.
I tell all my training partners, you know, after I beat them up real good or whatever, you know, it's like, it's all out of love. And I mean it. It is. It's all out of love, because I want you to lose here so that you don't lose when it really matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all about that prep work.
I don't know if I have it. I guess I could find it somewhere. The mentality to embrace that. And I guess being in athletics, you know, and going through whenever you're tired and you're sick and you've gotten sick, and then the coach is like, we're going to run again. And you're like, you can't just look at him and go, no, I don't think I am. You know, it's one of those type of moments. And so I know that I have it in me. I just haven't had to exercise that in a long time.
A good way to practice that is, I do this with my clients all the time. After a killer workout, they're wiped out, they think they're done, I'll say, okay, let's plank. And that's a great way to test that mental toughness.
Yeah. Shout out to the planks you make me do in my workouts.
I know.
Really find out how long a minute is.
That's very true.
For real.
Yeah.
But when I think about these things, and you being in the ring, in the fight, things don't always go exactly the way we've planned or prepared them to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you've hit points where things have gone maybe an unexpected way.
Sure.
And you've had to fight your way out of a situation you didn't know you'd be in,
Mm-hmm.
What have you. Have you ever hit one of those moments where it almost seems like the room and everything just like closes in around you and
Definitely.
you're overwhelmed in a sense?
Yeah, well, like in a literal sense,
Yeah.
I've been choked to sleep before. It happens, and that's exactly
man.
the feeling.
Yeah.
You see those little blue dots, and then the room goes dark.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Luckily, I've got good training partners, so it's
Yeah.
not that big a deal. You just wake up, everything's fine.
Sure.
But as far as competing goes, not trying to be all braggy or whatever, but I haven't had to tap yet, which is interesting because it's the easiest thing you can do. There's a fighter called his name is Chael Sonnen, and he talks about it. But he said in fighting, whenever someone's beating you up and you're tired and you're in the third round and you're bloody and everything else, the easiest thing you can do is quit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So finding the strength to not do that, that's quite the battle.
Yeah, absolutely. So where would you say for you, you have that spot where you dig deep, you find that strength that you need to kind of stay level-headed or calm in that situation in face of something you're where it's just unexpected, as well as able to kind of move forward and progress, hopefully fighting your way through those and overcoming it. Where do you dig to find that strength?
It goes back to the training part of it. I mentioned earlier, I enjoy swimming and primarily swimming underwater and you got your goggles on, you're seeing the wall, and you got that panic. You need breath. I need
to breathe.
I can't come up until I touch that wall, and you just drill yourself, and you find out you have way more strength than you really think you do. Yeah. I mean, where most people quit is only half their potential.
Sure.
They have 50% more to give.
Yeah.
All right, so we just need to get Tyson a shirt that says "Just keep swimming," right?
Just keep swimming.
That's perfect.
That's it, man.
So let's kind of make the shift. We're talking about actually fighting, being in the ring. Let's talk about how the lessons that you have learned in fighting, how it relates to your life. Because I don't want to get personal or air your life out, but I know you've been going through some trials lately.
Sure.
It's been quite a year for you.
Yeah.
And so how would you say that what you've learned in the ring has translated to how you're handling your life now?
Well, I got to say it right off the bat. When I was younger, late teens, fighting saved my life.
Yeah.
Going through depression and all kids have it rough.
Yeah.
Especially if their household's not exactly white picket fence perfect.
Stable.
Not super stable. I attribute fighting to literally saving my life.
Yeah.
And that moves on and goes into today's battles, right? Like I said earlier, I got just lost a couple relatives.
Yeah.
House got hit by a tornado. Seems like kind of when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
And having that escape where suddenly you can go to a place and focus on something completely different. Mm-hmm. It's that mental break from reality. And I've told people before when they ask, why do you fight? What makes you want to go? It comes right back to that. Yeah. Whenever you're sparring somebody or fighting somebody, you don't have time to think about the bills. You don't have time to think about the girlfriend or wife or the dog, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any trouble you got going on, it disappears. Because if you're distracted, you get hurt.
Yeah. You have to focus.
Mm-hmm. And that's as we relate it to exercise, that you can experience those same types of escape from a session of lifting.
Certainly.
Or you don't have to be in the ring fighting, and so that's why I love it.
Absolutely.
I love
that. That's what it's become for me, and I've seen this kind of progression of this is something that I have to do to this is something that I do as a hobby because I'm enjoying it to I need this.
Yeah.
I had the fortunate event to start having my dad work out with me.
That's cool.
And he's never lifted weights and stuff. And to be able to kind of pull him into my world with that, it was super interesting to see him like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Before he's like, why are you wasting your time?
Yeah.
4 times a week going up to the gym and lifting, picking heavy stuff up and putting it back down. That's not productive. But now, if we miss a couple workouts, he's calling me. He's like, hey, I need my therapy.
Yeah. I love that.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's so awesome.
So that's the other thing. If when people, you meet people sometimes and they have this hole in their life where they're missing something, they're missing that challenge you were talking about. And man, if I could convince anybody to do anything, it would be to start lifting or working out, whatever it is. It could be biking or running or whatever, fighting in a cage.
There is something about physically exerting yourself.
It's healthy.
It is, in more ways than one.
Yep. All right. So as we typically do towards the end of our podcasts, I'm going to throw a passage of scripture at you. All right, not just at you, but at all of us at the table. If I throw something at Tyson, he might throw something back at me.
And it might move a lot harder and faster.
It might. He uses different verbiage than I use, so throwing is really not the good word. It's 1 Corinthians chapter 9, starting in verse 24 through 27, and it says, "Do you not know that in a race all runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it." And then verse 25, I love this. "Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we as an imperishable. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box." There's your fighting word for the day. "I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified." So I love that passage of scripture when I'm talking about athletics and doing physical activity. Because there is a point to what you do, like you were saying, and your dad finally catches on to that. There's a point to all of this, and it's a lot of it is for the perishable things that we get from it, but there's also the imperishable, eternal side of it. So I just thought I'd throw that out there just for kicks, not like you do, but I had to throw it in there.
Love all the puns.
Indeed.
I know I can't help it. I'm a dad, and so I have dad puns.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Like it.
It makes me that specifically, and I've heard this phrasing time and time again in relation to scripture. This idea of having power, but also having it under control. To discipline one's body to where you may have the strength and know that you have it, but to dig deep within yourself and to make sure that you are in full control of that. And I think that is a concept that is biblical. One of my favorite passages of scripture comes out of 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 15. "Practice these things, stay committed to them, so that your progress may be evident to all."
Yeah.
It's been a passage that I've had as probably my favorite scripture since I was a student.
Yeah.
But just that idea of what I commit myself to, I'll put into practice. I'll stay committed to it. It'll be a constant within my life, so that the progress and the change that is overcoming me is evident to those around me.
Yeah. That's a good thought, because it all goes back to that idea of discipline, which you have to have tons of to do what you do, and in a lot of different areas of your life. And so it's that self-control in all things that makes you who you are and what you do and good at what you do.
And I think it pairs so well with what we're talking about with this embrace the suck, right?
Yeah.
Because when you look at that concept, it's almost as if you're saying, I'm going to embrace the entirety of what life is with this, for the purpose of finding out what I'm progressing to, right? Like marching myself towards the end goal, continuing to run my race, and knowing that the purpose in what I'm doing with this is found on the other end of whatever it is I'm walking through that sucks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. Tyson, I know you have some fights going on at your gym that you train at, right?
Yes, sir.
You want to give a plug for that?
Yeah, so the big one is Coach Eric with Dominion Fighting. He actually just started his own promotion. So the very first event will actually be held at the Bowie Event Center on May 14th. And basically my entire fight team's fighting. Unfortunately, I won't be fighting. Trying to get my house kind of put back together.
Yeah.
Kind of disappointed because I wanted to fight alongside them. But if you're interested and want to actually start training, hit me up. We can hook you up with the gym in Bowie or something else. So
Dustin's going to hit you up, and he's going to start training at your gym.
Okay, maybe hit him up isn't the right term.
Oh, I forgot. Can't use those words with him. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he'll get defensive. He'll be like,
I'm the nicest guy I know.
I know. For all of our international listeners, because we know we have tons and tons of those.
If you're interested in flying Tyson out for a fight, you might just be on board with it.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
Get in contact with us. We'll just act as his agents.
That's perfect. Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Tyson, so much for coming. We'll definitely have you on again. Maybe after your Thailand trip, you can tell us what you learned there.
Maybe I could bring some of my fighters in here with me.
Yeah,
dude,
absolutely.
that'd be awesome.
They're not as wild as you might think. They're okay. They won't come tear up the place.
That's all right. Dustin won't allow it. He's too competitive.
That's right.
That's it. It's already happened once. It won't happen again.
Won't happen again.
All right. Y'all have a good week, and thanks again for tuning in.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Progressive Overload podcast. We're honored to be a small part of your day. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or are interested in sponsoring our efforts, please feel free to reach out via email. Find us at progressiveoverloadpod@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe and follow our podcast so you'll be notified when our next episode drops.
And as always, you can help us reach the masses by sharing our podcast with your friends and family. And then check us out on Facebook and Instagram to follow our own personal journeys and get an inside look on our day-to-day lives. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.